Yeah, and we've done a bit of swapping here in the room, and to everyone online, welcome. So I would like to welcome you all to the Enhancing Clinical Practice and Outcomes stream of the SNOMED Expo 2024. My name is Anne Randolph-Heuen, and I'm an implementation support specialist with SNOMED International, and I'm moderating today's session. So all questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation, and for online attendees, please use the Q&A button to type in your question to the presenter. And for online delegates, please use the microphone provided in the room. So now I'm pleased to introduce Nina Haffer from Berlin Institute of Health Charity, who will be presenting incorrect and sex inconsistent mapping of disorders in the ICD, how to work around the sex bias and what we can do for correct semantic interoperability with the help of SNOMED CT. So Nina, please go ahead.
Hi, you all. This is going to be a slightly spicier topic, so bear with me. You can blush, you may blush, it's okay, but I'll be happy to discuss in the aftermath of this presentation about anything and everything. So there's no taboos with me. You can talk about anything. Yeah, but I think it's really important to talk about topics that are tabooized in society still. And you kind of see those taboos also within the standards that we're using. So incorrect and sex inconsistent mapping of disorders in the International Classification of Diseases is something that has been kind of historically happening, and something that has to do with society as a whole. So if we don't talk about it, then it will not change, and those labeling biases I'm going to talk about will still prevail. So yeah, just for you, just talk to me. So how can we work around the sex bias? Well, first off, what is this? Does anyone know what this is? Yes, this is a clitoris. So many people think that that was the clitoris, but that's only the clitoral glands. And sadly, also within the International Classification of Diseases, this is not correctly mapped in some of the diseases. So I will show you an example later. This is kind of sad because female anatomy hasn't been studied since I think because of Freud also, because he kind of made the female organs as less than male organs or reproductive organs. So this is also a historical thing that has been going on. And the clitoris has not even been in many school books for many, many years, and just came back into school books in 1950s, in some other countries, 1970s. And yeah, that has been a problem that still prevails. So we found a couple of disorders within the ICD-10 and ICD-11 that have to do with those so-called labeling biases. And within that, we concentrated on sex biases. So there are many different kind of labeling biases that have to do with less diversity of medical data, less diversity within also teams that make standardization happen. So for example, I'm a white person, so I wouldn't know about many, many things that would have been about discrimination in other minorities. So I'm not the one to kind of make the standards that have to do with data that has to do with, for example, illnesses specific for Black people, for example, or Hispanic people, because there are differences also in health outcomes. But I'm a female, so I can understand a couple of things about my own reproductive organs and how they differentiate between men and women. So those are the groups of disorders that we found: sexual dysfunction, mental disorders associated with pregnancy, PMS, female genital mutilation and cutting. Very gruesome and sad that this is still happening around the world to 200 million women, at least worldwide. Gender incongruence and disorders of breast and sexual assault, which is not really a disease, but I still wanted to include this because 1 in 3 women experiences violence in their lifetime, and we have to get this data somehow. So yeah, first off, sexual dysfunction. You can see that there are like different codes for genital response, orgasmic dysfunction, premature ejaculation within the ICD-10 and 11. And as the funny thing is that premature ejaculation and ejaculatory dysfunctions only have to do with men, although females are also, well, they're also able to ejaculate. So what's kind of cool about SNOMED CT, or the global patient set of SNOMED CT, is that it can help with more specific coding. And the global patient set is also license free. So any country, even if they don't have a national license, can use it. So for example, if we use the code for ejaculatory dysfunctions, we can still maybe use also the code for a clitoral erection if the clitoris has an an arousal dysfunction or something like that, or ejaculation. But there are still some problems. So yeah, so clitoral erection, but okay. I really wanted to show you that the clitoris can also swell, but I think many of you already know. Yeah, so let's talk about ejaculation. So one thing that's still also a problem within SNOMED CT, sometimes the parental concepts don't really fit the right definition. So ejaculation is, for example, a male sexual function. So that is just exemplary, and it's not like it's not as if you cannot use this code because of it for female ejaculation. You can still use it, but it's still a labeling bias within the standard. And if we think about large data sets and using AI to filter them fast, to use it to build relationships between like new concepts and new concept maps, this problem will still prevail. So more diversity would be great. Next off, I have postpartum depression. So postpartum depression is not a disorder within the ICD-10 and ICD-11. It's kind of, it can be post-coordinated within the ICD-11, so that is a possibility. But if we think about, for example, the use of fire, and sometimes you can only use one code without post-coordination, then we need one specific code. And I think at least 10% of women within Germany have problems with postpartum depression. So there has to be some kind of code for it. The GPS of SNOMED CT can also help with that. And even there are many findings that can help increase an understanding of what is exactly happening with the mother postpartum. Yes, so as you can see, the 6E20 code can have the causing condition of 6A70, And that would be the post-coordination of postpartum, while a pre-coordinated mapping with SNOMED CT would also be possible. And also not only postpartum, but also pure perium, which would be like not only postpartum, but would have more a bigger time frame around it. Okay, so this is one really devastating example. As I had said, 1 in 3 women globally experience violence, and 15 million adolescent girls have experienced forced sex at some point of their life. So yeah, that is data that we kind of have to live with, but we can enhance health outcomes if we get the data about it. Sexual assault is also severely underreported. Only 1 of 5 cases are reported worldwide. So we don't even know how many people in reality have really experienced sexual assault. So what's possible within the ICD-11 is kind of also post-coordination. So we can use the PAE1Y code for other specified type of assault by contact with person, animal, or plant, and can use the code context of assault, rape, or attempted rape. It's also, so the ICD is also terminology that is mostly used for diagnosis. So rape is not really a diagnosis, it's an event that happened. But in SNOMED CT and the GPS, you have a lot of different codes that can explain exactly what happened, how the forced sexual encounter happened, and who was like assaulted or raped, if it was a female or a male, and how. So female genital mutilation and cutting. That's one of the examples where the clitoris is not defined the way it should be, so anatomically incorrect. So the FGMC codes in the ICD have different types. So there's type 1, type 2, type 3, and that's like in many of the national releases. And the classification of FGMC according to the WHO is said to be within the type 1, type 2, and type 3, and type 4. The removal of the clitoris in, for example, type 1B, or the partial and total removal of the clitoris and other types. As you have seen, the clitoris is much bigger than the clitoral glands, which many think would be the clitoris. And that's also the case in this definition. So it's not the partial or total removal of the clitoris, but the partial removal and the total, maybe total removal of the clitoral glands. Yeah, gender incongruence is also has been a big theme from ICD-10 to ICD-11 because of non-inclusive language, and that's why the disease has been renamed to gender incongruence. Yes, so the thing is that within the ICD-11, it's not specified whether it's female to male incongruence or male to female incongruence, which is very important for therapeutic purposes and other purposes. So it's possible within SNOMED. This is also a kind of like a good measure to use on top of the ICD. The problem is here again that So transsexual can also be kind of like transphobic language. So trans identity would also help with language. So people that have a trans identity wouldn't feel discriminated against. So a lot of those labeling biases are not only, like, for example, anatomically incorrect, but there's also a political sphere to it. So the society is changing, and labeling biases will always kind of be there because society is changing, and people have other values systems than before, and there has to be a maintenance to it. And people that kind of are into the diversity sphere and try to help use the correct or a language that is inclusive. And last but not least, this is also for the men. Yeah, so disorders of breasts are diseases affecting females, although males can also get disorders of breasts. And benign breast diseases is a type of cancer that 1% of all men can get. So that is something that should also be changed. So the secondary reproductive not organs, but I don't have the word right now, are not only female, but also male. And only because the ones of the females are larger doesn't mean that the ones of the men don't exist. Yeah, so we also found boundaries of SNOMED CT in many other spheres, but I don't want to get into it as much because it's a lot. So the thing is that not even if we use SNOMED CT to help with the ICD problem, there are still labeling biases within SNOMED CT that we have to look at, that we have to we cannot eradicate them completely, but we have to change the coding more and more and help for the diversity in within the terminology, or also within the ontological relationships. So I've grouped the labeling biases within domains. So I found a lot about gender, about sexual and romantic identity. So there's a couple of things about sexual identity within the terminology, but nothing really about the romantic identity. Sexual preferences, sexual safety, which is really important. For example, for the protection of sex, you have the dental dam. So there has been a protection for oral sex for women. There has not really been like real condoms for women before, so they use dental dams if they could. But now you really have oral condoms. So this can be changed to, for example, rubber dams, or to show that it's specifically for protection for sex. And of course, sex work. So the only concept we have for sex work is to like prostitution, and that's not all that sex work is. So there are a lot of missing mapping possibilities for a lot of different jobs that are mostly done by women. So, and it's also a very like important topic because many women face a lot of taboos and face a lot of discrimination and face also fear to even talk about their jobs or let anyone know that they're doing this job. So even if we get some kind of data about this, then we should be really, really thorough with it. Yeah, so I really like Star Wars. Yeah, so that's the thing with diversity. It's really important to get us talking about it. I'm also doing a lot of mistakes still when I'm talking about diversity. I sometimes can step on someone else's toe in the sphere of language because someone feels discriminated because of some word that I haven't known about beforehand. And that's kind of also my privilege to know more about it and help with it, because yeah, we're the ones who can change this because we're the one making the standards. And it's also important for you guys to be brave to just ask, to be brave to talk about it. And if there's something that you may get wrong, at least you tried. So it's not really wrong in a sense. You just have to be empathetic and that's it. So also when talking to me, maybe after this presentation, you can ask away, you can talk as freely as you want. Nobody will like be angry with you or anything, okay? I'm just happy to have the conversation. So thank you for letting me have this talk, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you for your excellent talk and for being brave. We appreciate it. So do any of you have a question for Nina? Yeah.
Well, thanks, Nina. I've got to say, hands down, this is the best presentation I've been at a SNOMED Expo for a long time. So well done. I'm very involved in this area in Australia, and it's so refreshing to actually have the conversation. My question is these concerns with SNOMED and ICD. Can you comment on the pathways for raising them and how receptive the SDOs have been to these sorts of concerns?
I couldn't.
Have you put these concerns to the WHO and SNOMED International, and what's the response been?
I have to say, not yet.
No worries.
I only made the papers, but I'm going to, and Ian is sitting here right now, so we're going to talk about this. Oh no, don't hide. I just really like the examples, because the first thing I did was just like, I searched for it, like, I didn't know anything. I just thought about, okay, what could be like something that has to do with me that's different from like male 40 white. So and I found a lot of things and a lot of examples. So there has to be some kind of, maybe we can do some kind of group. We already started in Germany with different, like, we try diversity working groups and try to put more like more diversity within the spheres of many different like initiatives, but not with the standards itself. So we are starting with a medical informatics initiative in Germany, which does research data. We start to collaborate with them to put more diverse data into their data sets, also using the gender harmony specification of FIRE in more projects. So we try to put that into German specifications. But yeah, internationally, we haven't done much yet, but I would be happy to collaborate with you guys. So yeah.
And John?
Thanks, Nina. Great presentation. I've been working a lot in the US around this topic and discussing this with in the scope of gender identity. There's an extreme level of fluidity in the meaning of the terms, not only in the community, but even down to the individual levels. Any suggestions on how to overcome that for representation in a standard where we rely on a single standard meaning for a concept?
So I'll just give you one example. So for example, in SNOMED, we have the possibility to do parental concepts. So we have female to male transsexual and male to female transsexual, but we don't have anyone who's just trans, for example. So this would be a way to kind of help with it, to put it into more broader terms at first, and then go from there, I think. But within the Loing terminology, it's this kind of the same. I just didn't show it here because I thought that would be too much, but it's the same. You can have the tables afterwards. Ah, no, you can see it on the video.
Yep. And one last.
Thank you. Really interesting.
I'll just.
You can use mine.
Really interesting. You looked at different national variants or variants of ICD-10. Did you look at any of the editions of SNOMED to see whether they had additional?
Yeah,
codes?
so within the tables, you can see in the beginning, I used only the GPS SNOMED codes, but later on, I used the international version of SNOMED CT. So that's like more broader. So in the first half of this presentation, this was only the global patient set of SNOMED CT because it's also, yeah, it's possible to use worldwide.
Thank you very much, Nina. And I can see that we actually have quite a few hands who still are eager to talk to you. So there, you will have plenty to do in the break. And I can tell you, well, coming here at this conference and presenting is definitely a good first step for you to discuss. And as you know, SNOMED is an evolving terminology, so changes can happen rather rapidly. So please go and have a talk with all the people here in the room that really are eager to talk with you. Thank you very much.